Well, what's up again, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and it is that time of the year where everyone gets their lists out of the best and worst movies that they saw in 2017. So I start off real simple with my worst off list. Before I begin, I just wanted to let you guys know that I have 3 dishonorable mentions for 3 movies that I technically did not see, but I think it was best I didn't go see these because it would have been a really bad experience. So going off into my first dishonorable mention is Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now, I openly stated this before the movie even came out, that there was just no way they were going to bounce back from The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens to this day remains to be in my top 5, not just worst movies I've ever seen, but one of the worst movie experiences I've ever had. It's very rare that I've seen a movie that legitimately made me angry to the point where I want to punch somebody. Unfortunately, during my watching of The Force Awakens, I had a woman and her husband sitting to the right of me, and I had 2 kids sitting to the left of me. So, yeah, since it turned out that The Last Jedi ended up being worst, chances are, had I gone to see this movie, I would have been arrested before I'd say the halfway mark. So I'm glad I didn't see this. Next on my list is a movie that I'm sure a lot of people will put on their best of list, but I don't, and that is Wonder Woman. Look, my issue with Wonder Woman is just the character. I have no problem with the cast, I have no problem with the director, I'm sure the script was rather decent, and I'm sure it was a competent movie. It's just that I've never liked Wonder Woman as a character. I can openly state that Wonder Woman is the worst comic book character I've ever seen. Ever. And anything she's in is probably something I'm not gonna like. I openly confess that Wonder Woman was like 1/3 of the reason I didn't even like Batman vs Superman. If she had not been in that, I think I would have given it a pass despite all of the movie's problems. And this kind of goes into my third dishonorable mention for a movie I didn't see, and that was Justice League. And I would say she was probably 1/4 of the reason I probably wouldn't have liked this film. And at this point, the DCEU is in such a bad state that I'm at the point where I've given up. This is obviously run by a studio that wants to be Marvel. And it is clear that Marvel is controlling the DCEU. And I think that most of us can see that. They are just so trying to be Marvel that they have legitimately lost their own identity. They no longer have an identity of their own. And that's sad because I've always considered that the DC characters were way more interesting than Marvel characters. That's just me. And for the longest time, I was a hardcore DC guy. And I can't say that anymore. And it's just a sad day. And after what just happened with Fox, I'm gonna make the call right now. In the current state the DCEU is, if they do not do something to fix it, which I don't think they will, within 5 years, I guarantee you, Disney is going to be knocking on Warner Brothers' door, and there is nothing any of us can do to stop it. So, those are my 3 dishonorable mentions. Now you go into my official list. Number 10 on my list is a movie that I didn't really hate, but it just felt, if I could describe it in one word, wrong. And that is Beauty and the Beast. This was a very odd experience because I'm someone who actually grew up with the old school Disney animated movies. I like Beauty and the Beast. I like The Little Mermaid. I like Mulan. I like Aladdin. I like Snow White. I like Sleeping Beauty. I love all of those films. So to see it in live action just did not feel right. And it's one of those things that I feel like Disney is really running out of ideas, and so they're just rehashing and reusing old ideas, or they're just buying new properties so they could exploit them. And it's just sad to see Disney in the current state that it did. I mean, technically, business-wise, it's more successful than it's ever been, but in terms of quality and content that they spit out, this just did not feel right. I mean, if I ever live long enough to have kids, I'm not going to show them these type of movies. I'm going to go back and show them the animated movies. What's wrong with those films? They still hold up. They're still enjoyable. I still pop them out every once in a while nowadays. They're still very good films that hold up. This just did not feel right. And I'm going to make the statement right now that moving forward, I have no plans on watching any of these live action interpretations of these classic Disney movies. So I have no plans on seeing the live action Aladdin movie. I have no plans on seeing the live action Mulan movie. None of them. I don't need them anymore. I have the classic animated films, and that is what I'm going to be sticking with. Number 9 on my list is Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. The only reason that this movie isn't higher up on this list is because it is the final chapter to a movie franchise which has really been just stupid since at least the second one, which I thought was actually somewhat decent. And the funny part is that it didn't have to be this way, because I openly liked the very first Resident Evil movie because it wasn't trying to be like the games. It wanted to have its own identity. It was when it was starting to add in elements from the games with no real reason of doing so that these movies just got worse and worse and worse. And now that they are finally over, hopefully we can get a reboot and actually start getting some really good live action Resident Evil movies, just like the CGI movies, which are vastly superior. And hopefully we can then officially break the chain of really bad video game movies. But in terms of Resident Evil, yeah, this was not enjoyable. Number 8 on my list is XXX: The Return of Xander Cage. Now, I'm going to state this right now. I actually like the first XXX movie. And despite having several problems, I even like parts of State of Union. But this movie was just a complete train wreck from the very beginning to the end. And it's sad because it shows me just how limiting of an actor that Vin Diesel is. And I like Vin Diesel. But the fact that they had the nerve to try to add elements from the Fast and the Furious series, which it's even that is starting to have its problems, I think was bad. And I'll also say this: when it comes to dumb action films, there's only so much bullshit I can take. And okay, jumping over a building as it's exploding, I could work with that. Outrunning an avalanche, I could work with that. But the stunts in this are just so insane that it's too much for me to handle. Now it's getting ridiculous, and I can't handle it anymore. You gotta ground something. You gotta give me something to work with. And this movie had no mercy. It was just so ridiculous that I couldn't even enjoy it as even just a dumb throwaway popcorn, turn off your brain type of film. It was that ridiculous. Number 7 on my list is a movie that I know a lot of people put relatively high on their list of worst movies that they saw, but I didn't put it quite as high, and that is the Emoji Movie. I really only saw this movie out of curiosity, just to kind of see if it could be done. And this is clearly an example of a studio just trying to exploit a popular thing right now, which is funny because I don't even really know too many people that still use emojis that much. I mean, I'll use one every once in a while, but not enough to actually state that they're that popular. And this movie was just not that good. This isn't even something I would recommend you take your kids to go see. It's just so ridiculous, and the concept just doesn't work. I figured that maybe they would figure out a way to make this work, but no, this concept does not work. Number 6 on my list is The Mummy, and oh God, Universal, what the hell were you thinking? I mean, this was I've never seen outside of Warner Brothers, which hell, I don't even think Warner Brothers started out this bad. I've never seen such a poor attempt to start a cinematic universe than this. The second that Dark Universe logo popped up, me and the rest of the theater and the audience, we just laughed because we knew what was about to happen. And it's the constant problem of a movie trying to do so much to set up a cinematic universe that it forgets to focus on itself, and it was just so weak. And I think it's really one of the more worst movies that I've seen Tom Cruise do in some time. And he's a really good actor who usually picks pretty good projects. So I'm really kind of puzzled as for why he picked this. Maybe he was desperate to be part of a cinematic universe because that's what's popular now, but yeah, after how terrible this thing did at the box office, that's very unlikely to happen now. Number 5 on my list is Baywatch. this is a example that not everything that Dwayne The Rock Johnson is in is good, because this was just not enjoyable. I mean, Baywatch, I think I saw maybe one or two episodes of Baywatch when I was a kid, and it just such a strange concept to make into a movie. Just weird. And that movie had some of the worst CGI I've seen all year. I mean, just no. I mean, not every TV show needs to have a budget and be put in theaters. So I don't. And I mean, would this have been even theater worthy if The Rock or Zac Efron wasn't in it? I don't know. Just didn't work. Number 4 on my list is King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. By far the worst telling of the King Arthur story I've ever seen. I mean, you know the movie's in trouble when Jesus, it's just painful to think about now. I mean, I actually like the director. I really like the director. I've actually liked his style of directing for some time, but I just don't think it worked for this type of setting. And what's with the sword having all these superpowers? I mean, I understand that the sword is magical, but this just went way too far. I'm not sure what it was trying to be. I mean, if you're going to tell a King Arthur story, I would kind of expect them to kind of keep it grounded, and the movie just didn't do that. I thought some of the acting was very flat. I thought some of the characters were just kind of useless. I don't know why they were there. Don't know what the hell Jude Law was thinking, especially if he's going to be Dumbledore in these upcoming, prequel Harry Potter movies. So, yeah, just a massive collection of bad decisions, bad acting, and overall terrible movie. Number 3 on my list, oh Jesus. Okay, this one pissed me off, but I don't know how this happened or why this happened. There was no reason to do this. But number 3 on my list is Birth of the Dragon. How in God's name do you make Bruce Lee a side character in his own movie? This whole movie builds around this legendary fight, and it's a side plot to this white guy. Like, I didn't come to see this asshole story. I came to see Bruce Lee. And while I actually think that the portrayal of Bruce Lee was somewhat entertaining at times, it was just a complete disaster. I mean, if anything, if you're interested in all, I would just recommend you look up the fight that they filmed in this film online and just not see this movie. I did not want to believe the things I was hearing about this film. I was like, there was no way a studio would be stupid enough to do this. And next time I hear rumors that consistent, I'm going to listen to them, because I literally walked out of the theater pretty pissed off. Number 2 on my list is Ghost in the Shell. The worst adaptation for an anime that I have seen since... Okay, it's... Okay, I wouldn't say it's like Dragon Ball Evolution bad, but it's definitely on par with the last Avatar, that last Airbender. Yeah, I would say it was on that level. I mean, talk about a movie that not only didn't understand its own source material, but had the balls to try to create something of its own. I mean, listen, I understand that when you take something and you want to adapt it for a film, that you have to make changes. I understand that. And the goal is you want to make something that people who aren't fans can understand, but you don't want to piss off the fan base. And that's exactly what this thing did. I mean, there's even this massive twist near the end that I think was just kind of offensive when you really think about it. And I didn't think that Scarlett Johansson was a good choice for the lead character. I mean, visually, it was a decent movie, but the fact that it just so blatantly disrespected its own source material is just insulting. my God, I mean, hopefully studios will learn from this, but probably not, because I just hope that if the Akira movie comes out, that they learn from this, because this was a disaster, just a total disaster of a film. My God. And that takes me to number one, which was the only movie this year I actually walked out of. Now, here's the setting. So let me get this straight. You have I guess a remake, sequel, I think, maybe, because they got a character from a 1990s movie with a really terrible concept about what happens after we die. And even with almost, I'd say, 30 years of technological advances, you somehow bring people which are dumber. Now, I'm going to be honest. The only reason I even saw Flatliners, honestly, was because Ellen Page was in the film, and I'm a big fan of hers. But at some point, something happens in which Ellen Page is no longer in the movie. So as I was sitting there, I'm literally thinking, let me get this straight. I only came to see this because Ellen Page was in this film. I paid money on one of my days off from work, and you get rid of the only reason I'm sitting here. I have no reason to be here anymore, because the concept is just as stupid. The characters are stupid. I don't give a shit about the updated visuals, and it just didn't seem like they felt like they wanted. They tried to turn it into something not even the original was. I mean, don't get me wrong. The original has its issues, but that seemed like a much more competent movie even at the time. This is anything but that. And you get rid of the only reason I paid to see this? I walked out the second that happened. I'm like, fuck this. No. Come on. Yeah, the only movie I literally walked out. And that's very, very rare. If I can sit through shit from 2 to 10, and this is what finally breaks me, that's legendary to me. And that is why Flatliners is the worst movie I saw in 2017. But I'd like to know, tell me, what were the top 10 worst movies, or what were some of the worst movies that you saw in 2017? Share your list with me and everyone else in the comments down below. And if you like this video, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to check for my future videos. And stay tuned, because the next video I upload will be my top 10 best movies I saw of 2017. So with that said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.